Video card pricing seems to have settled a bit now. We're by no means getting amazing value, but it's a far cry from the dark days of the pandemic. The world giveth, but the world taketh away. I've become increasingly frustrated with the direction of the motherboard market in recent years. There's certainly an inflationary pressure at play here, but motherboards cost too much for what 99% of people need. It's time to change our mindset around what motherboard we should buy. So what are the problems with modern motherboards? When I think about buying motherboards as someone with over 500 PC builds under his belt, there's basically 5 things I think about. The first, is it compatible and working with a half-decent BIOS? 2, is there enough power delivery for the tier that you're buying? Note that I said enough, but not too much. 3, I want the plugs and connectors that I commonly use, things like USB, Wi-Fi, USB-C, and ideally a debug LED. Number 4, I want a useful PCIe layout. For M80X builds, this means the X16 slot is as high as possible, and having at least 2 M2 SSDs with heatsinks. And the final point is aesthetics. You want it to look good because you want your system as a whole to look good. And of course, all of these points are going to be underscored by the price. So why is it that a B450 Tomahawk, considered the darling of the B450 range, was released at under half the RRP of the B650 Tomahawk? The B650 Tomahawk launched at $260, whereas the B450 launched at $110. Okay, fine, so we need to add the cost of Wi-Fi to roughly equate them, around $25, but they're still miles apart. We might say, yeah, the B650 has way more features, USB-C, PCIe 4, DDR5. You'd be right, but that's not really the point, is it? Over time, we're supposed to get the upgraded features while staying at the same price bracket. Moore's Law and all that. That's what drives the future sales. If nothing got better, we'd just stick with what we've got. The better performance at the same price. So, in 5 years, the price is essentially doubled for the same tier of motherboard, which far outpaces inflation. Just get a lower end board, you might say. Well, I've tried, I really have. The starting point for motherboards has risen a lot in the past few years. Just a few years ago, I could get a Ryzen 5 3600, pair that with a £35 A520 motherboard, 16 gigs DDR4 and a GPU, and you'd be away with a great value system. Can you get a £35 motherboard now? Hell no, £110, that's the new starting point. And that's a huge difference when you're talking about a budget system. What's driving this price increase is what I'll call feature stuffing. This is adding in a bunch of superfluous features that most people don't need in order to justify the price increase. For example, why do motherboards have so many PCIe slots? I'd say you only really need 3, and that's at a push. You need a 16X for your video card, you want a 16X a bit lower down for maybe more SSDs or a capture card or something else, and you want a 1X at the bottom for a peripheral such as Wi-Fi. Serial I/O ports, do you use these? PS2 keyboard and mouse ports, no one uses these. Overbuilt VRMs and heatsinks on mid-range and budget motherboards. They just seem to get bigger and bigger every generation, despite the TDP of CPUs remaining broadly the same. We do not need all of these extra features. Some smart aleck will say, well, yes, this kind of person uses it. But that's not justification for this being the mainstream product. Sure, have a model or two with all the extra bells and whistles, all the features, but remove them otherwise so that standard users can get what they need and nothing more. As an aside, I don't know about you, but don't you think that most motherboards out there are a little bit ugly? I think MSI are fine, some Asus look pretty good, and NZXT probably look the best, but overall, they just aren't that aesthetic. It's a shame, really. I'd say the same for video cards as well, just an aside. So that's a lot of belly aching, but what can we do about it? Here's what I suggest. It's time to take a step back and consider our choices. Do I really need the Asus ROG Extreme version for my Ryzen 7 and my Intel i5? No. The entry-level board is going to be plenty for this. You don't have to go bargain basement, but entry-level boards are very capable nowadays. Spend the money you save on the board on something else that will make a tangible difference to performance. That could be more RAM, more storage, a better CPU, better GPU. It could be anything, a new monitor. We vote with our wallets. If we buy the most sensibly priced models, it's a signal that this is what the market wants. If you have a burning desire to get the ROG Game On Extreme Edition, then crack on. I'm not going to stop you, I can't, I'm not your mother. But just know that every purchase is a vote. So what are the take-home points from all of this? Motherboards are overpriced and most people overspend on their motherboard. Most motherboards are stuffed with features that aren't necessary and are just there to inflate the price. Electronics should get better over time without increasing costs, save for inflation. The innovation is what drives new sales. And finally, be honest with yourself and buy the right component for you. That could be the one that looks the best, or it could be the one that has the features that you want, but make sure you're having an honest conversation with yourself and buying the motherboard that suits you the best. And that's the end of the video, a slightly different format to what we're used to. I'm trying to expand the content. Let me know down below whether you agree with this, whether you disagree. I'd love to have a conversation down in the comments and hopefully see you on the next video.